Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Kurtz, and I'm also the founder of New Wings Coaching. I help and empower wild-hearted and adventurous women of faith feeling caged and stuck unlock their true purpose and potential, break free from limitations, and thrive with confidence, courage, and hope. If you're curious to learn more about coaching with me, head to newwingscoaching.net and be sure to explore the show notes for ways to connect with me further. Get ready to dive in as we uncover empowering keys and insights in this episode. So tune in and let's unlock hope together. Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristin Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Alexa Boehler to the show. I'm excited to have her here with us today. We are a connection through several different means, partly because of social media and partly because of a ministry that we were both trained up in. But I'm just excited to have you here today, Alexa. Could you share a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Yeah. Thank you, Kristin, for this opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to just talk and just lean into what God has to share. And yeah, I'd love to share a little bit about myself. So, well, I guess first of all, I am a wife to Max, and he's a school teacher. So I get to mostly stay home with the kiddos. I've sort of switched to the title to stay-at-home mom to work-from-home mom. So,
Yes.
but yeah, I've got 4 little girls. I'm girl mom,
Aw.
and my oldest she will be 6 this summer, which is
Wow.
crazy. So I've got a 6-year or a 5, almost 6-year-old. I've got 3-year-old twins, and then our 4th was born in December, so she's about 4 months now.
Wow.
Yep, 4 months. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm doing the mom thing, doing the small town life now. We just recently moved back from Missouri. My husband was teaching in St. Joe, and we lived in a little town out there, but we're at home now. We both grew up in small town Nebraska and just moved back. Well, it's about a year now, but it still feels pretty fresh, but so.
What led you back to Nebraska?
Well, so we were high school sweethearts.
Oh, yeah.
And after we went to, I guess, to college, in a little bit bigger of a city that we were in, but still not big at all, really. We grew up in a town about 1,000 people, both of us.
Oh my
And
God. Wow.
yeah, and then we moved to what it would be what we would call our big city, which
Yeah.
isn't. But we moved to Kearney and we went to college there. And then we decided when we got married, we were going to go and explore a little bit more. And we moved to Kansas City area.
Wow.
And we always knew that when we started having children and we're going to actually settle down, we both just kind of knew we would head back to where family was. And that's what brought us back. Family is most important. And it's been a huge blessing to be able to be close to both my family and his family. And yeah, so I would say family brought us back. The Lord did all the work, but yes,
Absolutely.
we wanted
Wow.
to be close to them.
So when you were apart, was it challenging? Like, did you have a support network,
Yeah.
out of your family in Missouri?
Yeah, so our families, both of them, we're very fortunate, are very, very supportive, but just the distance was hard. We're
Yeah.
about we're about almost 6 hours away.
Oh,
So nothing that we, couldn't make it back if we needed to, or they couldn't make it if they needed to. But
yeah.
when we started to have the kiddos, that was very, very challenging. My heart goes out to um to parents who are either not able to or don't have family around. It is a huge
Yeah.
blessing. It was hard. Yes.
Yes. I can only imagine, like, I always tell people it takes a village. I'm so
Yeah.
blessed that, like, my mother-in-law does in-home daycare, so she was helping
Oh,
take care of my
that's
boys when they were
wonderful.
growing up because I was working a job when I was,
Yeah.
young mom. I wanted to be a
Right.
stay-at-home mom, but I thought,
Yeah.
my gosh, I can't even imagine not having family,
Oh,
to care, like, or just putting them in a childcare center. No condemnation to anybody who's putting their,
No, I know. I
but for
know.
me personally, like I had a dream to be a stay-at-home mom and I just thought, okay,
Hmm.
well, that's not God's plan at this point. So
Hmm. Hmm.
the next best alternative is to have,
Yeah.
family to, almost just be like that second home, right?
Yes, absolutely. I feel the same.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I have a friend who lives in it's Kearney, right? Missouri.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Well,
ask you.
so we're in Kearney, Nebraska is where we went to school. So
Oh, okay. So there's
there,
a
there is
Missouri.
a Kearney, Missouri, but
Yep.
yes.
Okay. Yep. All right. So that would be a completely different place.
Yes.
So going back, you've gone back home, and what have you been up to? Like, what is something that's been, we were talking before we got
Yeah.
started, and my heart, one of the reasons I had you on was to share what you've been up to, and really, help. I don't know. It's almost like a birth announcement, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, I think it is. That's how I feel. And
Yeah.
I have to sidebar a little bit and say I absolutely love that you use that analogy so much because I am super passionate about birth
Yeah.
and physiological birth, and I my one of my best friends is a doula, and I started attending births with her and just super passionate about
Yeah.
actual birth, and so just seeing this analogy is really special. So I
Yeah,
love that.
it's so interesting
um
because I have like, as a life coach, I've had several clients say you're like a spiritual midwife to help
I
people
love that.
birth that which is within somebody because I think there's too many people who self-abort what it is that God's calling them
Ah,
to birth, right? And I, for some reason, just get all of these like birthing analogies, and yet I'm not like in the birth space physically,
I
in
love it.
essence, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of a behind the scenes of if anybody's wondering, like, what is she talking about?
Yes, yes,
I have
I
some people
absolutely
that
love
don't
that.
understand my language.
No,
So
it's good. I
please
love
forgive
that.
me.
So
Yeah.
okay, well, so here's the birth announcement of the book that I
Hmm.
am working on. So, I actually just published a Christian children's book. It's called Emmanuel Emu, God is with you.
Hmm.
And it has been a whole long process of bringing this to the world.
Yeah,
Um, I guess I kind of got the idea after, okay, I'm going to rewind again. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over.
that's okay.
But um, I I grew up as a singer-songwriter. That's kind of what I did all through. I mean, gosh, I started when I was 10-ish, around there, and like actually singing for events and things like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of background of the art side of what I do, the artsy side.
Yeah.
Um, I was listening to one of your podcasts and somebody said that they were multi-passionate, and I'm like, thank you for that
Yeah.
wording. I've been needing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
There's
yes.
freedom, right? In that
What was that?
there's so much freedom to
Yeah.
embrace that because I think the world will tell you that no, you can only do one thing. Ever hear something on this show that stirs something deep, like a nudge from God that there's more? That's stirring. It's not random. I'm Kristin Kurtz, host of Hope Unlocked and the founder of New Wings Coaching, and I'm inviting you into a 45-minute unlocking session, a sacred space to press in, hear what heaven is saying, and activate your next bold step. If you're a trailblazer or kingdom voice ready to break free from doubt and live fully alive, this is for you. Book now at newwingscoaching.net/hope unlocked for special listener pricing. You were born to live uncaged and unapologetically bold. Now back to the show.
Well, absolutely. And that's something I have struggled with. It's like,
Mhm.
well, if I'm doing this,
Mhm.
then I can't do that. And I've always been very creative, and I
Mhm.
love the writing music and
Mhm.
art and that sort of thing. But if I'm focused on that, I actually, that's kind of another story. But I had
Mhm.
somebody very influential say that there was no way I could even do what I was doing because I needed to make a distinction if I was for sure going to be making music and that's all I was going to do,
Wow.
or and
Huh.
it really like cut deep, and I didn't understand why at the time because I was like, but I ran track in college and I loved being well and helping people understand wellness, and like why couldn't they both be, and just
Right.
that sort of
Right.
thing. So
Yes.
um but yeah, so I've always been into music and creative and that type of thing, but just it just never was like clicking really.
Yeah.
um I don't know how to explain it other than it just really wasn't clicking. I have some really great music, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't always be quite as bold about
Mhm.
my faith and sharing the gospel through
Yeah.
what I was doing. So I know that had a factor for sure. But
Okay.
I think for sure, looking back now with the whole multi-passionate
Mm-hmm.
idea, is
Hmm.
like I really was just like putting myself, I guess, into a box. And when God was like, no,
Yeah.
you are all these things. This is how I made you.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's been really very freeing, as you said. So
Yeah.
I guess when I had my first, I was in Missouri at the time, so we weren't around family, and
Mhm.
um I was working for a while before she was born at a chiropractic clinic, and I was doing the rehab with the clients there, and I was called to stay home even while I was throughout the pregnancy, which was interesting because I didn't have any other kids, so that was hard. But in
Mhm.
that time, I got plugged in with the other ministry that you and I have been
Mhm.
involved with, the
Mhm.
Revelation Fitness or
Mhm.
Wellness, and so I started doing that, and was really really excited about it.
Mhm.
And it just felt like very freeing at the time because I
Mhm.
wasn't. Um, I guess I could be focused on not just one thing. I was doing a lot of more music and singing. That's where some of income was coming from. I was also doing this fitness thing, and I
Mhm.
loved that. That was one of the first moments where I was like, okay,
Yeah.
these do fit together. This can
Yeah.
work.
Yes.
And um, right after my first was born, of course, it's a huge life change to have your first kiddo, and going all the time, go, 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 and just to sit down and learn how to nurse a baby and be resting with them.
Yeah.
Um, my, I just feel like I was kind of given this little character,
Mhm.
Emmanuel,
Mhm.
um, and he was an emu, and okay, this is so fun to talk with you about it because you've said you are into the birth analogies,
Yeah.
and you've
Yes.
also, I've heard you say that you love eagles
Oh
and
my.
birds, and I'm
Yes.
a bird lady too, so this is so
Yes.
fun.
Yes. Oh my
My
gosh.
first is actually named Lark, so
Oh.
I love the birds,
Oh.
and
Yes.
um,
Could have fun out in nature together. Let me just say.
oh yes, we would. Um, but yeah, so I had this little character, Emmanuel Emu. God gave me his little story,
Mhm.
and pretty much it sounds kind of silly, but really, as I was nursing my first and singing her little lullabies and telling her little stories, this was born with her, kind of this little
Yeah.
emu, and yeah, that's how the story happened. I want nothing more than my kids and all of the kids to know that God is with us and with them. And so
Yeah.
that is really what this first story is about.
Mhm. So you said the first story. Tell us more.
Yes.
There's more. You have
There's
more.
more coming.
Ah.
I have several books already written,
Mhm.
and I am so excited that God connected me with the illustrator that we've been working with,
Mm.
because he is an amazing man of God. I've never met him in person, but he has been working with me on this project
Wow.
for well over 2 years or more now at this point.
Wow.
Just kind of bringing this story to life, and that
Mm.
is kind of a fun story in itself,
I can
because I had
imagine.
no idea where to start. I
Well,
had no idea where.
would you mind like kind of digging in with us on that? Because one of my favorite things when I hear somebody say is like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yes, yes,
So I'm imagining that you didn't know what you were doing. Would you be able to kind of dig into that a little bit with our audience?
yeah,
Because first of all, you're a mom of four under the age of five.
yes,
So that could be, we have a lot of things that try to keep us from stepping into our
Yeah.
destiny. That could definitely be something that you could say, no, I gotta wait till,
Mhm.
18. And I'm just using that as an example.
Sure. Yeah.
Because there's lies, right? That I don't have time.
Yes.
I always find like some of the, not if you agree with me, but with people I've worked with or people have come across my path, I find that
Hmm.
the two de dis detractors, I guess that's the best way to put it, is
Yeah.
I don't have time and I don't have money. And those two
Yes.
things can keep you from stepping into
Mhm.
what he's calling you into. So would you be able to like kind of walk us through this process of like what did it look like? Did you feel like he's saying now? And then you're like,
Yeah.
what
Yes.
now? Like tell us a little bit more about this process.
Yes. I would love to. Okay. So you were spot on with the time and money thing. That definitely comes up a lot inside of me, and I have to go, no, no, no.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, yes, I'll take us back when I first got this little story and this little character, and I knew it was going to be a children's book.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, I'm going to go back a little bit even further.
Yeah.
So I had just, I guess I think it was a couple years before, but I had published or not published. I had released an album, songs that I had written, and it was kind of a stripped back version of what I had done before.
Hmm.
And I was working with kind of a home studio
Hmm.
guy, and he was also a Christian. And I was like, okay, this is good. We're going to try and focus on that.
Hmm.
This being okay. How do I say it? I wanted the music to be, it could be
Hmm.
Christian music, but
Hmm.
also couldn't be. That's where I was at in life.
Sure.
Like it, you could listen to
Hmm.
it, and if you were a Christian, well, this is special, and it's not, you know,
Hmm.
dirty or whatever you want to call it, but it's not overtly like I'm talking about God or my faith or anything like that. That's where I was kind of at.
Okay.
And looking back, it's good music, but like I had already mentioned, I can tell that I wasn't in the flow of what God wanted me to be doing now
Mm.
that I know.
Wow.
And um, so it didn't really do any, I mean, it was good, and it wasn't like just fulfilling. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
what I knew I should be doing, I think.
Okay.
And
Did
so
you
that
know that
wasn't,
at the time? Did
I
you
did
get,
not know that at the time.
okay.
I think if I don't know. I think I was convincing myself
Hmm.
that this is what I could be doing, and or like if this is good, and it is good. I think there's people that works and God calls them to that, but I I don't know. I knew that something was kind of off, and it felt out of my comfort zone, but I guess I've always thought that like we're called to be uncomfortable, so this is what that feels like. But I think I'm starting to realize now more that it's that feeling was more of like you're maybe uncomfortable because it's not what you're supposed to be doing versus
Mm.
what it feels like to be uncomfortable when you are doing what God's calling you to do. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, and I think we have to take a step back too and kind of have that eagle-eyed view of like you stepped into it, nothing is wasted, right? And it
Yes,
seems like
absolutely.
that first step in, like I can imagine, if you have volumes of books, your first book maybe isn't going to be as
Yeah,
substantive,
exactly.
right? Like kind of like when we do something for the first time, we really kind of don't know what we're doing, but yet
Uh-huh.
God's still with us and his hand is on it. So it's not like you were, being obedient or whatever, but like I
Yeah.
think that there's more for you in that realm as well. So
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
just want
That's
to say that.
exactly right.
But
So
I wanted to
then,
kind of stop on that point just for anybody who's listening, like nothing is
yeah,
wasted, right?
absolutely. Nothing is wasted. I've learned so much in all of those, in all of that. And I don't usually like promote that now, but yeah, it
Mhm.
was definitely a learning experience for sure, and growing in
Mhm.
my faith too.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So I
Yeah.
guess bringing me to the book now, that
Mhm.
when I as a mom, as a new mom, um it felt like everything kind of came together and was like this was a way that, um, like, this is what I was supposed to be doing, I guess. So, like, I can make music now that goes with the books,
Mhm.
which I have. Each book has a little song that goes with it,
Oh,
and
yeah. I
it's
wrote down,
all
say, I see you having music with your books, and I had no idea.
oh yay, that's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Mhm.
So yes, that's what I did, and I'm like, this ties it together, and like I'm
Oh,
going all out, like I for my kids, right? Like they
yeah.
got it. I'm not gonna not uh,
Mhm.
have a Christian book, a faith-based book, something that I'm
Mhm.
gonna teach them through this, and that's what happened. That's what happened. So
Mhm.
um yeah, so that's where I was at when, and it just all like came together, and I was like, okay, so this is for God, this is for my kids, this is who he created me to be, is to like confidently
Mhm.
put him out first
Yeah.
and not like a second thought.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I kind of it was slow because there you go, I was busy, I had a
Yeah.
new baby, and I was stay-at-home mom, and my husband had, just teaching job, and we're not
Yeah.
making a whole lot, and so I didn't really do much with it for,
Mhm.
oh gosh, maybe a year or so.
Okay.
Um, but in the meantime, I had a couple other books that came to me as well. So I have those written
Right.
and the songs that went with them.
Oh.
And that was kind of that. And then after well, I can't remember. It was either before or after my twins were born, but it was right around that time. I told my husband Max, I was like, I think I'm just holding on to these adorable stories, and I like tell them to my kids. So I should
Mhm.
just do it already. And he's very supportive, and he said, all right, figure out
Yeah.
how to do it. Just tell me how much it's going to cost. And I was like, okay, well, here we
Yeah.
go. And
Yeah.
so I knew I needed an illustrator, and I knew, gosh, you just learn so much when you have kiddos. And I
Mhm.
knew how important it was to have um, a Christian, a faith driven
Mhm.
illustrator, artist to work with, because
Mhm.
I know that little people can't read, so they're going to read the pictures first. And I know how powerful pictures can be. And
Mhm.
so I was
Yes.
like, I got to find this person. And I
Mhm.
started reaching out to, I have lots of artist friends, and I contacted them first. And nobody
Mhm.
was really like, some were like, well, I could maybe see what I can come up with and give you a sample. And
Sure.
so they did that, and I said, they ended up actually saying no, they didn't think this was a good time to take on a project, and
Okay.
that's good. And I
Mhm.
learned about the like freelancer sites like Upwork, it's
Okay.
Upwork and Fiverr, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm not having any luck finding
Mhm.
any illustrators, so I'm just gonna post it there and see what happens.
Okay.
And I made a post. It was like at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And after the kiddos were sleeping, um I explained very, very rudimentary this
Mhm.
project that I was looking for an illustrator for. And I was bold at that point, because in the past I would maybe I definitely mention and make it obvious that I was
Mhm.
a Christian, but this following Jesus, but I wouldn't put it the very first thing. Like,
Oh, I love that.
and yeah, and so this time I did, and I was like, I'm a new mom.
Mhm.
I have, been a singer-songwriter. I've got these little children's books, and this it's about an emu, and I love birds and nature and seeing
Mhm.
God in that and this type of thing. That's how I explained it, and I was like, oh, what the heck? Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And like 5 minutes later, I got a response,
Mhm.
and he shared it. He's like, I don't get on this like at all, really, but I
Yeah.
did happen to hop on and just check my account, and I saw your post. And
Mm.
he explained that he was a actually at the time was a school teacher, and he was a daughter. He had daughters. He was a a girl dad, and like all these things. And he actually had published, just very loosely, but he had done it, a book about birds, and he was
Nice.
um, a, a minister at his church and also an illustrator. And he thought this was a very, interesting project. He'd like to learn more. I was like, well, goodness, that like matched
Yeah.
everything.
In 5 minutes.
I know. I mean, seriously, it was like
Yeah.
instant. And, I responded right away and I was like, well, that's perfect. I think we like match really well. And, but I did say, we're on an extremely tight budget. Like, I don't even know how this is going to work. I know that I'm supposed to be doing it, but, I'm all about paying people what they're worth. And I certainly would not, I'm just not saying no
Mhm.
right now, but just so you know, I
Yeah.
not got much to work with.
Mhm.
And he said, that's just fine. Just, I'll pray about it. You pray about it, which I was like, okay, that's great. So far, we're starting with that.
Mhm.
And, um, but, go ahead and talk to the people that you need to talk to. And so I did. I got
Mhm.
back a couple, um, samples from other people just, that saw the post and, they were good, but there was, and I hadn't even seen a sample from this guy. His name's Joel, by the way.
Okay.
Joel is the illustrator. Joel part. You know what? I need to ask him actually how to pronounce his name. We were talking about that. It's
Yeah.
either Parton or Partain.
Okay.
So poor guy. I've only been talking to him for working with him for 2 years now. So,
Well, we don't usually
um,
call each other by our last name, typically,
exactly,
right? So there's grace there.
exactly. Well, thanks for that. So Joel, yeah. So, anyways, he we hadn't even gotten a sample yet from
Mhm.
him, but I just felt like very strong connection there, and I got the other samples, and they were good and all of that. But I tried to pursue, like, do we do you just do this, over like Messenger, or do we talk? And
Mhm.
most of them didn't. It was just we just they develop the pictures and I use them type of thing. And
Um,
I ended up having a call with Joel, and I was like, I felt very called to work with him. And I told him that. And he said,
mhm.
I feel the same.
Mhm.
So let's just make it work. And I said, okay, let's just make it work. And
Yeah.
he was extremely gracious,
Aw.
donated a ton of time to the project, a lot of his um, experience
Mhm.
and having done something similar before. And he was just upfront with, I believe in this project, and you will pay for what you use. So we did a lot of character development, which was so much fun working with him. Like, we tried all kinds. First he was a darker colored emu, and because that's what emus are, that most of the time the standard color is dark,
Mhm.
like a black colored
Mhm.
feather. And it was not translating at all to the illustration. And so we're like, well, maybe he needs to be a blonde emu or a white one. And so we did all the development, and he was just awesome. It was just so fun to see God bring this to life through his talent and his, like, I guess, desire to hear the heart of the story and the message behind it.
Yeah.
It was just super fun. I would say things like, we need, I want to see Jesus through this little character's eyes.
Mm.
So how do we brighten his eyes up and, like, make it pop off of the page and speak to
Yeah.
little people, little hearts?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted this little cuddly guy
Yeah.
that just has the joy of Jesus in his eyes. And
Mhm.
so he would like draw up something and be like, how about this? And
Oh, how
so,
fun.
and it was just so fun. It was just an awesome process. And he'd send over one. We're like, oh, okay, I think that's close, but maybe his hair looks a little spiky. He's not quite as lovable as we want. Okay, let's try this. And I remember the morning that we got the
Mhm.
one, because
Aw.
I was sitting at the table. We were having breakfast, and um, one of the twins, I think it was Blythe,
Mhm.
was sitting on my lap, and I said, "Oh, we got another picture of Emmanuel. Come here, hurry!" And they all came running over, and
Oh
and
my
uh, we pulled it up, and their reaction. Like, I have a video of her reaction, their reaction, but one of my girls in particular, they
Mhm.
make like the same face,
Really?
like bright eyed, like it's kind of goofy, but she's like, "Oh." And
Oh my
Emmanuel,
goodness.
and I was like, that's the one. That's the reaction I wanted. That's what
Yeah.
we were going for. And so that was him. That was him. So that was the process of developing Emmanuel Emu.
It is so, I
And
love that you involved your girls in it and they got to
yeah,
be part of this process.
yes. Yes, they've been very involved and it's been so special. I say it's kid tested already.
I love that.
So,
It tested. Oh my gosh. So, like an emu, like I don't know that
yes.
I've ever seen an emu before. Like what is it about the emu and like do you have emus where you live?
I'm so glad you asked because I love them so much, but I don't have one yet. I need one.
Hmm.
Um, I have only met one in person one time,
Hmm.
and I've always been a bird person. Always been a bird person, and I like fun and humor and just lightheartedness. I love
Hmm.
that, um and to be different and unique. That's always been my thing too. So I I always have enjoyed different things, and when I discovered the emu,
Hmm.
it seemed to kind of fit like me and all the things that I love because emus can't fly. And so I've always loved birds because they can fly. And I was like, wait a
Right.
minute, this bird can't even fly. And so that intrigued me because
Mhm.
they are runners actually,
Oh,
and they're like fast, and
wow.
so it's just funny how it all tied together because like it's kind of goofy, it's kind of
Yeah.
cheesy actually, but they're runners, and so I ran track in high school. I got to go to state and ran and I loved doing that and went to college running track and like that's just been kind of my thing. Like it seemed to fit the wellness piece into my
Yeah.
love for like nature and birds somehow. I don't know, it's so weird to say, but that is how I became intrigued with the emu.
Wow. I love it. I mean, I have not known a lot about emus before, so you just educated me today. And I love birds. Um,
Yes.
and I love eagles. They tend to like
Yes.
soar, go up high, and they
Oh,
don't, they just catch the
I
wind and do
love
their thing,
them.
you know?
We have a lot of eagles in our area. Like we
Really?
were by a big reservoir. It's one of the biggest I guess you'd call it a lake here in Nebraska, and we get tons of eagles right along
Oh,
the
wow.
lake. It's
Oh,
so I love them.
they just yesterday I was on a walk and I literally it felt like the Lord was tipping my head up and I look up and there's five swirling above my head. And I'm like, I feel like I'm
Oh,
not even in this world right now.
that's amazing.
They just take you to a whole other place. But well, back
Uh-huh.
to your book.
Yeah.
Uh, is Joel like, is this something that he does on the side then? Is this something that like we could share him with the world? Would that be helpful?
And
Does
so
he want to
he
be
does
shared
do it
with
on the
the world?
side. He's a very, busy dad and does this in his free time. And I don't know if he does other projects. I'm not
Yeah.
even sure. I need to ask him because he's so
Yeah.
talented.
And I'm just thinking of somebody who's like, gosh, I've been looking for somebody as well, and
Yeah.
you never know. So check
Yeah.
in with him if he's open to it. We'll definitely
I will
tag
do that.
information in the show notes, and we can highlight Joel.
Absolutely.
Why not? So
Oh, he should be highlighted. He's a great guy.
yeah.
He does such good work.
And you said initially you were led to go on, was it Fiverr that you went on to find him?
I did go both. So I actually found him on Upwork. It's either
Oh,
Upwork or Upworks.
okay.
Upwork, I think. But that's where he was at.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I know like back in the day, I had somebody from Fiverr that helped with a couple creative projects that were way beyond me because we can't do
Yeah.
everything. I just maybe we'll
No, I know.
highlight that. Let's go there. We can't do
I
everything.
think we should because that's been a big thing that has been coming up for me just this year where
Mhm.
I can't do it all and
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of money and I don't have a lot of time,
Mhm.
but I can't do it all. So God's gonna connect those dots and make it happen if it's supposed to be, like if it's from him. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Well, I mean, even. there's things that I've been kind of picking up on lately, even just in my own business and seeing that, there's things I could learn and I could probably do it good. I'm just going to say I could do it
Mhm.
good,
Right,
but I may not
right.
be able to do it great. And there's people who are
Uh-huh.
not good to do certain work that, like for me, I would not be creating an album. That just, I could
Yeah.
do it. Like I could get behind a microphone, but that would
Uh-huh.
go well. It would not be great. It
Absolutely.
might be a little good. I don't know. But
Right.
there's like we're all given these callings and destinies and we have this purpose in us and
Yes.
we're all creative, right? I believe that everyone
Yes.
created creatively, and I think that's another area
Absolutely.
people get stagnated in and say, "Oh no, I'm not creative.
Yep.
I can't paint." Because I've noticed that that's kind of the, "Oh, I can't paint." It's like that's not the only creative thing that you can be,
Right.
right?
Right.
But as far as, this book, like what else was the process to birth the book? Because
Hmm.
um well, I'll let you share because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like we're speaking to somebody today that's like, I have no resources. I can't do
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a voice. I don't have money. I don't have time.
Right.
Right. And you're already
Yeah.
decimating, like disintegrating some of these lives, right?
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, so okay, the next steps, I guess, were once I mean, and this was a long process. One thing that when Joel and I talked, he was like, I do this on the side, and if you're wanting to pump this out, if God says you need to get this out really quick, I'm probably not the guy.
Yeah.
And we prayed on that because in my head, I'm like, when I start, I'm going to finish and let's get it out and start telling people. And I really,
Mhm.
really felt like, no, I'm supposed to work with him,
Mhm.
and I'm supposed to work with people and someone who sees this vision and is
Mhm.
passionate about it, and like this is how this is supposed to be. So there were times where it was slow and he was busy and wasn't able to get me anything, or I mean, I'm talking like months between contact. And then
Yeah.
there were seasons where we're like, holy smokes, we're back and forth and we've got this now, and on to the next step. And so that's kind of how it went
Mm.
for quite a while.
Mhm.
Um, and then let's see, we moved, so there was a lot happening, and
Mm.
a lot
Yeah.
happening. We're actually in the middle of building a house as well. So I was in the process of trying to coordinate all of the early stages of moving the home to the land, and
Oh, wow.
I just it was just a lot happening. And so we've always been really open and saying like, okay, we've got this going on, and okay, I'll pray for you in that area, and this is
Mhm.
why I'm not responding quickly, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But after that kind of slowed. Well, it was right before, and they knew that we knew that that was going to happen. It was going to
Mhm.
get really busy again. We talked, and I was like, let's try and get this. We've had several like,
Mhm.
let's do it. Let's do the launch over Christmas. And we're like, okay, we missed it. We missed the launch. Let's move to the next,
Like a due
the
date,
next
a
goal.
moving due date.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
And so this has been one of the first projects where I have been, well, just, I guess, open to that happening, I guess,
Yeah.
and kind of balancing, or I guess letting the Lord guide it,
Mm.
and knowing like we're going to do all that we can to get to this date.
Mhm.
And less of like the I'm going to get it out whether it looks good or not, or whether I wanted to change this or not, and
Mhm.
more of like, no, we're all in at this point. Let's make it how we believe it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. So I guess that is just, um, don't put things off and procrastinate, but
Right.
when you're doing work for, I mean, the best quality that you can do, and you know that like you're being intentional about
Mhm.
that, you're not procrastinating type of thing. Like there's a difference, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that didn't feel disappointing to miss that date, I guess, if that makes sense. So
So do you think
we
that maybe in years past and other projects you would have maybe been had some, is the word that I'm hearing maybe like kind of disappointment in not reaching like the due date in essence?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have been an either or thing. Either I would have felt so much pressure that it had to be out on the time that we had planned, or that I had even told people it was going to be out, that I, like, I don't know, stayed up till like all night every night for weeks trying to get it
Yeah.
there, and then it just like wasn't as the
So like
quality that I would have liked,
striving to do it.
or been disappointed. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
There was like a striving and now you were like, okay, Lord, like I surrender this.
Yes. Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. The striving. Uh-huh.
From striving to
Absolutely.
surrender like that
Hmm.
and it's a
Hmm.
challenge. Like there's such a transformation that happens in that, and it, I don't know
Hmm.
about you, but it can feel kind of uncomfortable because the world would say you need to have this done quickly, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, especially as I did a whole year of pretty intense, I guess, fundraising for the
Oh,
project.
mhm.
And so I was telling people about this, and I couldn't give them a date. And
Sure.
they're giving to me. It was extremely generous of
Yeah.
people. And there was like a, I feel bad. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. Or I'd tell them a time that I'm like, we got pushed back again. And I guess it was a stretch, but it was also good for me to be able to practice staying in connection with the people who had donated, and keeping them in the loop, like authentically, not like I knew I had to do that. That in the past I'd be like, I know I need to keep them in the loop, but I don't know what to say. And so I would not. And this time it was like, no, this is where we're at now. This is where this is where we're
Mhm.
at. This we're at.
Yeah.
This is where we're at. So
Yeah. That's
yeah.
amazing. Did you ever get any feedback from people, like negative feedback because it was,
No, not even once. Not
yeah.
even one time. It was always, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we're so excited. You're getting closer. We can't
Oh,
wait. I mean,
like
it has been
supportive.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. And I'm sure that you had some chains broken in that realm of, I think
Yes.
we can kind of pick up the, people pleasing essence. And I think it's
Uh-huh.
us, right?
Yes.
So, we have to walk through situations to be broken of, whatever it is that we're carrying at times. And
Yes.
I love that you have such a supportive community. I think that is brilliant to have
Mhm.
fundraising. I imagine the Lord gave you that idea to
Yeah.
accompany you on this journey.
Yes, he did. He did. And it was wonderful. We actually went, my sister and I do some singing together sometimes. And so we kind of put together a little, I guess, service or program
Yeah.
of songs, and we went to little tiny churches.
Aw.
And yeah, we were pretty much the message for the day. And I told them about the book and the message behind the book, and we sang songs with people and they just free will whatever they felt led to give.
Aw.
That
So,
it was wonderful.
and then they got plugged into your community through that.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love this. And this is what
Thank
'cause
you.
you are like this season's launching pioneers, right? You're definitely a pioneer,
Yes.
doing things different,
Thank
really,
you.
being anchored to the Lord and releasing something that
Hmm.
it maybe doesn't make sense on paper.
Hmm.
Especially when, some of us are walking through more challenging financial
Yeah.
situations and we're called to build something. And it's like,
Right.
you think of Noah building an ark and I always
Oh, yeah.
just my silly example, but I'm a very visual person. So when I
Hmm.
when I read Noah, I imagine his wife like sitting down going, Noah, like seriously, we have no rain.
Yes.
Have you seen like this has been years. You're doing this thing. Like what are you doing? But I love that your husband was so supportive and you had all these people supporting you and that's not always the case for people.
Yeah. I know. I feel
So
very, very, very fortunate.
it's beautiful. Well, as we're getting ready to close up today, I
Hmm.
have this person and maybe this person's kind of in that situation where they're not having as much support as they would love, or
Yeah.
they're looking for more creative ideas, or they need to be unlocked in their creativity.
Yes.
Would you be open to just sharing to the one who's listening in today and just share any words of encouragement or wisdom you might feel led to speak over to them? Would you?
Absolutely. And I love that you were led to ask this, because one of the things that came to me
Mhm.
um, as I was spending some time with the Lord and preparing to chat with you was about that. And way back when
Mhm.
I just started actually like singing for events, and we did traditional country music festivals we traveled around to when I was younger. I was like 11, 12 at the time. And one of my dear friends, he's no longer with us. He was an older gentleman, but his name was Michael Jones. He when I knew him, he was completely blind, and he was an amazing musician and songwriter, and became a really good friend of mine.
Mhm.
Um, through the music. And he backed him and his group, which happens to be my husband's mom is also a musician. So they were in a group together, and that's actually how we met. um,
Oh.
and but it's also how I met Michael too. So as a musician. But anyways, when I could not play the guitar and do shows on my own, I would ask them to back me up.
Mhm.
And that's we'd spend a lot of time with
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
And one of my things when I was, gosh, between 12, 13, 14, one of my things when I would go, people would say, well, do you have your own music? Do you write? And you need to write. If you're going to do this, you got to write.
Mhm.
And um, my thing was, as I'm not a songwriter, I'm a singer. I
Mhm.
like to sing. I love to meet people. I love to play music, but I just don't write my own music. Like
Mhm.
I'm not creative like that.
Mhm.
And I don't even know how that was placed into my mind because it's such a lie.
Yeah.
But that is where I was. I know now I was scared. It felt vulnerable to write my feelings and my words down. And I was young, and what on earth could I possibly write about? And
Yeah.
it's scary and all these things. But
Mhm.
and I decided I wasn't a songwriter. I was just going to sing, and that was fine. Like, can't that be okay?
Yeah.
And that's where I was at. And one time, I don't know, I think I was probably talking with Michael about that, and he was always sharing his new song. And he was blind, so he had a little recorder, and he would say, come here, listen to this. And I'd get
Mhm.
close, and he'd play this new song that he had written. And just, I mean, creative, the guy, he just had song after song, and they were so good. And he said something, I don't even know how we got into the conversation really, but he said something about me being a songwriter, and that I could do that. And
Mhm.
I was like, no, there's no way. And he said, I'm not gonna do it any justice like he did, but he said something along the lines of, to be the best way to be creative is to be as close as you can to the creator.
Mhm.
And that really stuck with me. And
Yeah.
that is what you said. Like, we're all creative in
Yes.
our own way, because we're made in the image of the great creator.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to look like writing music or writing stories or painting or anything. Like, there are so many ways that we can model this um, creative spirit that we have through Christ.
Yeah.
And I mean, it can be anything. And building houses is creative. Like, I mean, there's so much
Yeah.
that, um, yeah, that we can create with God.
Mm.
So that
Yes.
would be what I would say to somebody who's struggling with feeling like they're not a creative person, or that they just, or even have accepted it, or didn't even know that they had accepted it. They're just not creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I would say.
there's such a war on creativity. And I remember
Mhm.
even back in, I think it was like 2020 or so, I remember hearing my spirit like when in war, create. And I felt like there was
Mm,
this word that I was to kind of to help, just even my who I work with, some of the clients, I would just, ask them like, what is it that you would love to create? That you maybe
ah,
there was something that was hijacked in you when you were younger that,
mhm.
was it dancing? Was it singing? Was it
Ah,
art? What was it? Did somebody tell you that you sucked at drawing and then you stopped drawing
right.
that? Like kind of go back to that memory and then get that unlocked and go do the thing,
Yes.
right? Um,
Right.
I get excited about this. I'm like kind of dancing over here a little bit.
Yay.
Um, and it's so interesting because, one of the things, and I won't go too deep into it, but I remember, loved singing. Like I loved singing.
Yeah.
I had a record player with a tape, cassette recorder next to
Yes.
it with a microphone. And then
Yes.
somebody had said, you suck at singing. And that
Oh,
completely, it literally
yeah.
chokeholded
Yes.
my
Yes.
voice,
Oh.
even in my 40s. And it's been
Hmm.
a breaking process all these years. But
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you. I mean,
Hmm.
gosh, we need people who are going to speak life, like your friend
Yeah.
did over you and to help
Yes.
you move forward and just really help, cut off those lies because
Yeah.
do you ever listen to Rita Springer?
Ooh, I don't know if I have.
Okay. She's a, worship, music artist.
Okay.
She's in her, I don't know, she might be in her 50s or 60s. I just
Okay.
love her.
I'll have to check it out.
One of her like more popular songs is Defender.
Oh,
And
sure. Uh-huh.
she has her own podcast and she interviews people. And one of the things she asked Amanda Cook, and I think she asks everybody, but basically, like, what is the thing that you're like to like put out in the world, basically, in essence, or
Uh-huh.
what is your essence that you put out in the world? I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I'm not using the words correctly, but
It's okay.
Rita, it's courage. So it's to put courage in
Oh.
people. And it's usually the very place that what you're called to, it's usually going to get like attacked the most, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Uh-huh.
you're going to be attacked with
Absolutely.
discouragement, right? So if you're like for me, hope is really like my thing. I just have
Yeah.
hope unlocked. There might be
Uh-huh.
times of like the enemy coming in like with hopelessness, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
if you're a creative, you're of course going to have like, I mean, and I don't mean we're all creative, like I said, but
Sure. Right.
songwriter, ones who are out there really doing the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
So how does that like resonate with you?
Ah, it's awesome. So I guess my first thought was, well, goodness, what in my life is that? Like, what
Mm,
is it that the essence, as you were saying, and what is that I'm putting out? And I was trying to think, like, what, what's because it was kind of an opposite thing. Like, if you
yeah.
are putting out hope, then you
Mhm.
might get attacked with hopelessness. And honestly, I need to think on that because that's
Yeah.
powerful.
It is a powerful question. Right.
Yeah.
And also kind of that whatever your, destiny, calling, purpose, there's usually going to
Mm-hmm.
be kind of an attack in that area too. And I've
Sure.
even pondered, I'm like, what is it about the singing aspect? And I know that like I'm not called to be a singer. I love singing. I know, it
Mhm.
breaks chains, all the things.
Yeah.
But what is it through that? And I
Yeah.
love words. I love sharing words.
Uh-huh.
I see words for you as well, like being a
Mm.
wordsmith because you have to be a wordsmith to be able to
Mhm.
create a book or
Mm.
worship music or, speaking over
Yeah.
people, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what I was seeing over you is like,
Oh.
the umbrella is words and writing, but then it's the
Mm.
multifacetedness that comes down and
Yeah.
ripples down of like the singing, the books, the,
It's good.
there's it, there's so much here. I love it.
Yeah. There is.
I could
It's
keep
good.
going.
It's good. It's so
Aw.
good.
Well, you have been such a blessing to have on. I would love to have you back again when your next book comes out or when your next
Yes. Yes, we have
multifaceted,
started.
your
I was so excited
multifacetedness.
because sorry. I was so
Yeah.
excited because Joel messaged me even before this was, I mean, we
Mhm.
were like done. I was just getting the finer details of like formatting and
Yeah.
making sure it was looked good and getting the samples in the mail. And he was like, "Do you mind if I start book two?" I'm like, "By all means." So
Oh,
yes,
and when
I'll
was
keep you
that? Like
posted.
really, really recent?
Yeah, very recent. So yeah, he's rolling with book two now, and I don't think God has his own timeline. I don't think it should take as long because we've got the backgrounds are and the colors are already picked and the characters are already pretty much created. So I'm hoping it doesn't take quite as long, but we'll see.
Well, where can everybody get your first book, baby?
Yes. So I have a website that kind of has my life on there and it's just alexaboehler.com. That's
Mhm.
BOEHLER.com. So alexaboehler.com and you can find it all there.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll be sure to post your website in the show notes as well. And other than
Mm.
that, thank you for coming on today. And thank you for
Thanks so
being
much,
a voice
Kristen.
who's setting others free. I will close with Hope Unlocked anchoring verse. It is, May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace and
Mhm.
believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. And that's Romans 15:13. So thank you
Amen.
again, Alexa. Cannot wait for the many more, the multiples to come. All right.
Thank you so much,
I'll be
Kristen.
back with another episode next week. Bye.
Bye.